Okay, it was about 4 years before I got the transplant, and I was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis. And I went to different pulmonologists, and I ended up on oxygen. And it was 10 liters I was up to, and they told me that, I needed a lung transplant. I was having trouble with my, my fingertips were turning blue, and they said that, the pulmonologist I was seeing in Thibodaux, Louisiana, where I was from, told me that he couldn't do anything for me because I needed a lung transplant. And I said, well, could you please refer me to a doctor at Ochsner? And he said, well, at your age, he says, you wouldn't survive the operation. So I just, my brother helped me find a specialist for pulmonary fibrosis at Tulane Hospital in New Orleans. And he saw me twice, and he said, you need to get a lung transplant. So he referred me to someone at Ochsner. The doctors at Ochsner put me on the list. I was accepted. They wanted me to go to Methodist in Houston because they said they couldn't find a lung that was small enough to fit my chest cavity. So I went to Methodist in Houston, and that's where, I received my lung about 4 years later. And I had to move to Houston so that I could be within a certain distance from the hospital. I still have to go for visits to do my regular checkups over there. But I was home, I was in Houston for 9.5 months. And it wasn't until I was there for 6 months that I got my first phone call saying that they found an organ. They had told me that I had to move to a hospital because I was running out of oxygen in my tank and in my oxygenator for the house. So I was debating if I was going to go because they said they could supply me with more oxygen at the hospital than I can get through the oxygen that I had at home. And I was getting ready to call them to tell them that that's what I wanted to do when I received the phone call. And they told me that, we have to see if the lungs are viable, so don't get on the road right now and come, because it was in the middle of a flood in Houston. And, the lungs had to come from Dallas because that's where my donor was. And they couldn't fly it in, so they had to come by ambulance, and they finally got the lung to Methodist. I got the transplant the very next day. This was on May 27th, and I was in ICU for about 3 weeks. I was in the hospital for, a good while, and then I was told I can move back. We were living in Pearland at my niece's mother-in-law's house. So we moved in there, and I did my recuperation there until they told me I could go home. That wasn't until September. We were back in Pearland, and my son called me up, and he said, I think I'm on to something, but I have to know if you would be comfortable finding out who the donor is. And I told him, yes, I would. And it must have been, I can't figure out the time, but I know that from May, I moved back to Thibodaux in September, and I met the donor's child the week after I was home. Well, it was, I didn't know, I was nervous, she was nervous, and I didn't know what to expect from. So, when I saw her, I said, Amanda, I'm sorry for your loss. And she was 11 years old at the time, and she told me, she said, don't be sorry, my mother had to die anyway, and I'm glad that you got her lungs. Amanda had wanted both of the lungs to stay together. So I got both of them. which was a blessing because they told me I could do with one, but two would be better. Really, it was something for Amanda that she was talking, giving a speech at Donate Life, and it was really an emotional, time. But through it all, I knew that at the end, there was a ray of sunshine, and that was Amanda.
Yes.
Because she was very positive. She's grown up so much. She's matured. She was so mature at 11 years old. I couldn't believe it. She was something else. But I knew, a lot of the things she did. She plays volleyball. We went and see her play volleyball when she graduated from St. Pius. She was 11, and she loves volleyball. I look at the whole experience now, and I don't see the bad part. I just see, the good part. In fact, I was depressed. I made 72 2 days ago. I was depressed because of the age, but then I said I should be very happy because I got 3 more years than I thought I was going to get. Well, 72, my cousin was 72, and I realized then that it was hereditary because they told him he was too old for a transplant, and he died at 72. That's true. My time was running out.